So when you're designing, let's say, a general um, training block, like let's say someone's 6 months out from competition, it's not a specific time point, or maybe they don't even do powerlifting, maybe they're just trying to develop strength generally. How long do you find is the kind of sweet spot for you for a training cycle? Like, let's say someone being on a particular program, there might be variations each week, but what's a typical kind of training block look like for you? And how do you progress within the block? Like, for example, are you someone who's a fan of like start at 2 to 3 reps in reserve, then two, then 1 to 2, whatever? Or what are some of the general trends in a Shane Story training block?
So I usually keep them about 4 to 6 weeks. I think that's the kind of nice
Yeah,
sweet
I
spot
agree.
that allow for like just even the progressions in load. So typically I'd like people to start around 4 to 5 reps in reserve.
Mm.
So pretty light, like, and that's kind of usually how I start most training programs as well, is to start off like an intro week. Like that first week is to get a feel for what the program's going to be like, see what the volume's going to be like initially, and maybe you'll take off like even like 1 to 2 sets, depending on how high the kind of training volume is in the program. See what they're going to start off weights are going to be like, get a feel for how long the program's going to take them, and then from there they can look to progress it on week. If there's somebody who's more so in kind of powerlifting focus, or even if it's just somebody who requests it, I will provide them with weights to do on a given week.
Mm-hmm.
Some people can like properly self-select weights, but some people do need to essentially be spoon-fed what weights to do, and that's fine. I get the same done with my coach. One benefit of it is it does take you out of your own head,
Yeah.
and it kind of gives you a bit of confidence. If somebody else is saying this is the way for you to do, go do it. Like, you know, obviously you could have a bit of kind of back and forth if the person doesn't feel confident enough to do it, but that's kind of an opportunity for you to have evidence of, like, you know, why you are giving that recommendation. Like, generally people send me training videos of their like top sets. I say, okay, well, based on the speed and based off the speed of like other sets, like you definitely have room to progress in that lift, you know. And then over training blocks, you know, the person's going to get a lot more comfortable, especially if they're new to training, as to what degree of kind of what like an RP8 or a 9 or whatever feels like, the based off speed, you know, and that kind of builds confidence over time with them.
Perfect. And do you see much value in like maintaining work, let's say within that 3 to 5 reps in reserve range, like later in a training block, or do you always kind of linearly increase it closer to failure?
It kind of depends on the lift. So if it is with their kind of main specific variation, I will try to push that up across the block. However, if it's with the likes of the variations that we may have in the program, a lot of that is going to be mainly for technique work, as opposed to trying to increase training volume or like force adaptations on those. So with those, say for example in a program, if somebody's doing 2 squat days, one of those days is probably going to be a variation, and one of those days probably will be like a competition variant or a specific variant, even if they are quite far out from a competition. One, just so they're keeping one in for practice of the skill, and the other day, just so even if they want to get better at a certain movement, like high bar squats, for example, to build their quads up a bit more, and also gives them another area where they can focus on maybe setting some goals or kind of like achieving weights and those over time. So it kind of gives you a bit more variety in your training program, as opposed to just saying, okay, well, the only things that I really have to focus on are my squat, bench, and deadlift. And they're the only 3 things that I really care about the metrics going up on. Whereas over time, if you have all these different variants that you can focus on, be like, I hit PB on my double pause squat, I hit PB on my tempo bench, like they become also kind of factors that can make training a bit more enjoyable over long term.